right, everybody, welcome back for another deep dive.
Yeah.
Today, we're going to be taking a look at this source that one of you sent in about navigating ambition gaps in relationships.
Oh, yeah.
And it's something that I think a lot of us kind of struggle with. Like,
Absolutely.
how do you make these differences in your relationship like actually work for you instead of against you?
Yeah, sometimes it can feel like you're speaking different languages almost,
Right, exactly.
And it's not ambition itself that's bad.
Well,
It's just about
yeah.
how you bridge those gaps.
Yeah, so the first thing that this source talks about is like open communication. Like, and I know we hear that all the time, but
Yeah.
it's like, what does that really mean? Like in terms of your ambitions with your partner.
Right. It's more than just like a one-time download of like,
Right.
here are my ambitions.
Here's everything I want to do. Go.
Like, goodbye, see you in 5 years.
Right. Exactly.
It's about having that ongoing dialogue.
Right.
And sharing not just like the exciting wins, but also like the anxieties you have about it, maybe some of the setbacks you've experienced.
Yeah.
And being really honest with each other about that, because that's where the resentment can build.
Totally. And I think too, it's like we often think about like the big, like, end goal, but it's like celebrating those little wins along the way is
Absolutely.
hugely important too.
Yeah, like acknowledging like, hey, I finished this project, or
Right.
I moved forward in this way, and
Yeah.
being excited for each other.
Okay, so what about when those ambitions are like totally different directions,
Yes.
Like one partner wants to like, really focus on their career and the other partner wants to start a family. Like
Right.
how do you respect each other's path when they're so different?
That's a tricky one.
Yeah.
I think that's where it's really about understanding that growth within a relationship
Right.
doesn't have to mean identical ambitions.
Mm-hmm.
You can have two people in a relationship who are growing in different ways, and that's okay.
Right.
And it's actually really healthy, I think,
Right.
So it's about like letting go of this idea that you have to be on the exact same page at all times, and instead just
Right.
respecting each other's individuality within the context of the relationship.
So like if your partner decides to like take a year off to like write a book or something,
Yeah.
and that means that maybe your lifestyle has to adjust a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
like you're still respecting their
Exactly.
to do that.
It's not about saying like, oh, that's a bad idea, or
Yeah.
you shouldn't do that. It's about
Yeah.
saying,
Right.
like, how do we make this work?
Yes.
How do we support each other through this?
Okay. And this verse also talks about finding common ground, Like
Yes.
if you are, going in different directions, like what are those things that you share? And I know I read about this one couple where like the one partner was like super corporate and the other partner was like starting a farm,
Oh, wow.
and they like used a shared calendar and goals app to kind of like
Oh, that's interesting.
stay aligned. Like,
Yeah.
so they had like totally different ambitions, but they still like
Yeah.
found a way to make it work.
Yeah. And I think even if your goals are completely different like that,
Yeah.
there's still that shared vision for the relationship that you can find,
All right.
Maybe it's like supporting each other's side hustles, or,
Right.
making sure that you're making big life decisions together that reflect your shared values.
Yeah. Yeah.
That common ground is really important because it kind of acts as that anchor
Right.
when your individual paths are maybe going in different directions.
So then how can we be like better cheerleaders for our partners? Like,
Oh, yeah.
what does that look like in action?
I think it's the little things, it's
Yeah.
celebrating the wins no matter how small,
Right.
whether they got a promotion or they finished a really challenging project, or
Right.
even just like mastered a new recipe.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's about being excited for them.
Yeah.
And then on the flip side, it's also being there for them when things are tough.
Okay.
And, just acknowledging that struggle and letting them know that you're there to listen and support them.
So it's not always about like trying to give advice or
Oh.
fix the problem. It's
Exactly. Sometimes people just need to vent.
Right.
They just need to get it out.
Yeah.
And have somebody listen to them.
And actually listen, not just like
Yes, actively listen.
pretend listening.
Yeah, exactly.
One thing I hear a lot is that like people worry that ambition can overshadow the relationship.
Oh, for sure.
Like if you're not careful,
Yeah.
like how do you make sure you're keeping things balanced?
It's like a dance.
Yeah.
You're constantly kind of like
Yeah.
shifting and adjusting and trying to find that rhythm between
Right.
your individual pursuits and the time that you spend together.
So it's like scheduling that time in,
Yeah. I think that's really helpful for a lot of couples, is
Yeah.
to actually like schedule date nights or even just like check-in conversations where you're not talking about logistics. You're actually like
Right.
connecting.
Like, how was your day?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So we've talked about like open communication, respecting different paths, finding common ground, being each other's cheerleaders,
Yeah.
and making sure that ambition doesn't like eclipse the relationship.
Yeah. And I think it's really important to remember that a strong partnership can actually fuel individual ambition.
Right.
You know, when you feel supported and loved by your partner,
Yeah.
it gives you that secure base to go out and chase your dreams,
Totally.
knowing that you have somebody who's there for you.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it really makes me think like, how can understanding these differences in ambition
Yep.
actually lead to a stronger, more fulfilling partnership?
Yeah. What does that look like for you?
Yeah. What does that look like for you in your relationship?
That's a great question for all of us to think about.
Yes, it is. And on that note, we're going to wrap up this deep dive.
Right.
We will see you next time.
See ya.
Keep diving deep.
Bye.